I think it's time to meet your new friend. Now just close your eyes and think really hard about your new friend. Can you keep an even bigger secret? I think it worked. Your new friend is somewhere in your house.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of We Still Haven't Decided on a Name. I am Noe, joined once again by my lovely co-host Paul.
Hello.
Hello. And today we're going to be talking about the rest of the Mandela Catalogue, the YouTube Analogue horror series made by Alex Kister. And in the previous episode, we talked about Overthrown, Volume 1, the Metaphysical Awareness Disorder, and then the Intruder Alert, and then there was Abstraction or something like that. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about Volume 2, Volume 333, and Every Day is Brighter, kind of the epilogue. But firstly, Paul, I want to know, how are you doing today? How was your week, buddy?
My week has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Woke up, thought of you. Now we're here.
You just did that for 7 days or however long
Every
it's been since
day,
you recorded?
Yeah, I didn't even go to work. I just sat down, went, and then stared at static.
You just and they say love is dead, guys. So
I have your shrine in my room.
There's a court order about that.
They can't take what I believe in. No.
You need to take it down, Paul. It's been 10 years. Right, anyways, so yeah, we're gonna start this off with talking about the Mandela Catalogue Volume 2. And right off the bat, Paul, I want to get your thoughts on this particular volume, because when I brought it up, your tone kind of changed. So I just want to know your general thoughts on what you think of this episode.
Well, honestly, I wasn't really a fan of the second episode.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was pretty uninteresting.
Okay.
And I thought the acting was pretty terrible.
Okay, yeah. That is unfortunately a problem that a lot of analog horror runs into, is when you're trying to get a performance out of someone, it's normally not very good.
I'm sure this will give you enough time to deal with him.
Well...
How about 500 a night?
Oh, hell yeah! Alright. Sounds like a plan.
And we'll get into it a little bit later, but that's kind of my general thoughts too, where throughout the entire 18-minute runtime or 20-minute runtime of this, it is sporadically interesting, and there are some questions that I have, but for the most part, I found myself kind of bored.
It was good here and there, like you said. Like it wasn't like a bad concept. I just think the acting really like threw it out for me.
It really weighs it down, yeah.
I just did not want to see that show. I was tired of it.
But to kind of get us started with the recap here, this episode follows two characters named Adam and Jonah, and they're part of the Bythorn Paranormal Society. They kind of investigate creepy stuff as well as alternates. And my first immediate question, just knowing all of these like Ghost Bro TV shows, was, are these guys frauds?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of left ambiguous. The number one question I had was, why are they wanted by the FBI in the first place?
I thought they had mentioned it, didn't they?
They mentioned that they're on the run, but they don't ever really mention why. There's FBI wanted letter for them. And I'm left wondering, I'm like, well, do they know something? Because typically these kinds of people, they're not on watch lists or anything like that. So there has to be something they're doing differently, right?
You might be right, but maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. But I thought they had like killed somebody or ran into something and did a crime. But
you know what? They were going across country, hot wiring and stealing cars. Because that's something that they mentioned. Their car breaks down and they're like, oh, I guess we'll just have to steal another one.
Okay.
Maybe you slept through that part because of how boring the voice acting was.
Yeah. All we know is that these two guys are doing like odd jobs, it seems, at this point, or like filming these alternates, right?
Yeah, they're investigating them. We don't really know what they do to them. Like, Do they try to kill them? We don't really know, but they get a call from this lady regarding a cat meowing in her house. And this was a cat that she had years ago. And to me, I started laughing really hard at the idea of a cat alternate.
Of my old cat Johnny, but the little guy passed away a few years ago.
Really? A freaking cat alternate?
Which is just so ridiculous to me. Yeah, a fucking cat alternate. But yeah, one of the characters, I believe it's Jonah, he gets very excited at the prospect of she's offering $500 a night for 3 nights.
Yeah, just to like scope out the house.
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, I'm gonna be out of town, so you guys are free to stay there." Which immediately in my head, just watching the show, I'm like, that bitch is an alternate.
Yeah. As soon as they started talking about like come to my place, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. But the thing with this video that was a little interesting is like they're filming to like kind of like the ghost show, like we mentioned, like ghost hunters.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to believe that not everyone believes in the alternates quite yet, and I think the main purpose of this video was that they didn't believe in the alternates either. Which is why we thought the cat alternate was like a joke, right?
Yeah, I believe on the car ride, I think it's Jonah himself. He says it. He says that.
Right. Half of me thinks that there aren't even alternates, and the mayor was just too stupid to just make that entire infographic.
He believes that alternates were made up by Mandela County. He doesn't believe that they're real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And which I find kind of funny because by this point, by the time of Adam and Jonah's story, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the dates or whatever, but it's been 20 years since Mark was killed.
20 years.
From the first volume. Yeah. So all of that stuff that we were watching in the first couple parts with like the 3,400 kids being kidnapped, that was all taking place by about like, I think it's like 18 years between 2009 and 1992. In my head, I'm like, shouldn't you know about this by now? Like, this is not like the boogeyman. This is like real shit, you know?
Yeah.
But the alternate suspicion kind of confirmed to me when, I don't know if you noticed this, but when Adam and Jonah arrived to the house, it's Caesar's house from...
Oh, is it?
Yeah, from Volume 1. It's the exact same house.
Oh, okay.
Which, fun fact, I learned this just browsing the Wikipedia pages, but that is Alex Kister's dad's house, the creepy alternate house.
DDoS!
Oh shit, hold on, we gotta take this down. Yeah, so they pull up to Caesar's house, which in my head pulled up all the red flags of like, nah, that bitch that was calling him was an alternate. There's no way that it wasn't. Maybe it was Mark's or Caesar's mom, you know, because when she collapsed on the floor and all that, maybe it was her. Who knows? But yeah, when they reach the house, everything is pretty much open except for one door, which is sealed shut. Which, if my money, Paul, if you and I were in this horror movie, I'd be fucking out. That's it. One door is locked shut. I'm leaving.
Nope. Especially with a cat alternate running around.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Fuck that. But it intrigues Adam. He wants to stay behind. I think he even says like, oh, this gets a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
We don't like this now. I'm the opposite. This is kind of interesting. I don't think you should go in there now. I'm going back in. There's something.
I think Jonah's more reserved initially.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I think you might know, but the names hold significant value.
They do, yeah, they do, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit further into the video. But the two names, I think, like most names in this story, hold significance.
Yeah, I mean, with the context of the first volume, you kind of can piece things together going forward.
Exactly. Like, I think even if you watch Overthrown, that really sets up the context for what kind of story this is trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important, obviously, that you watch it all in order. But yeah, there is certainly a lot of significance behind the names. But when they're trying to contact the cat, like when they're getting to work, which, again, pulling out a ghost box and like turning into frequencies to listen to a cat is just... It's just too much for me. This episode is just too silly.
They're playing paranormal.
Exactly. They're that fucking Phasmophobia game, and they're just hunting. They're just hunting for a fucking cat.
Yes, they're playing Phasmophobia. That's right.
But and probably the scariest part of the video, at least for me, was when Adam asks Joseph if he sees anything, and Jonah replies, "Oh my God, behind you!" And he's like freaking out.
Cameras.
Oh my God, behind you!
Dude, cut it out.
Oh my God, behind you!
Dude, seriously, stop.
Oh my God, behind you! Behind you! Behind you!
Dude, fucking quit!
And he keeps repeating it.
Exactly. It's the fact that he keeps repeating it in the same exact way, which I was like, ooh, that's kind of creepy.
It was pretty good, minus the fact that Adam was like, shut up. Yeah.
Dude, okay, thank you. All right, so
It threw me off. I was like, oh, come on.
like a constant theme throughout this is Jonah is like really putting his all into his voice. Whoever who voice acts Jonah is really putting his all into acting, whereas he's not getting nothing from Adam in return. It's weird. Whereas he's like, fucking quit it. Like he sounds like an annoyed teenage brother.
Yeah. Well, I figured, maybe Alex Kistner probably asked like some of his friends to like help him with the video.
Well, yeah, that's always the hard part about doing analog horror series is you're working with next to nothing in terms of budget.
Yeah.
So you have to resort to asking your friends or aspiring voice actors who just want the practice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're just not going to get the best performances out of them. But in the case of Jonah, I will say the voice acting isn't great in this episode, but he does try really hard.
At the very least, his screams are okay.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to the part where I dislike about Jonah's performance, but I think for the most part, he does a pretty solid job.
I do like the thing leading, the conversation leading into that afterwards, where Adam starts telling him like, "Hey, I'm gonna go further," and then Jonah starts telling him like, "Hey, if you don't get out of this fucking house, I'm leaving you."
Yeah, because they reach a point where they're starting to like spiral.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the spirit box starts working and stuff, and the door starts banging, right? And then the cat starts meowing, and it's like, uh-oh, so something is in there. And Adam wants to go see. Adam, biblical reference. He takes a bite of the apple, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, because when the intruder, I'm assuming it's the intruder because it's revealed kind of later on in the episode that it is.
Yes.
It tells Adam, I am watching you. I can hear you. And once that happens, Adam is kind of confused. He's like, what the fuck? And then it cuts to a cartoon, another cursed Christian cartoon of the story of Adam and Eve. When they're if you don't know the story of Adam and Eve, they were created by God. He took a rib cage from Adam and created Eve. They lived in the Garden of Eden, which was a paradise. The one thing they were told, though, was to not eat anything from the forbidden fruit. And a snake comes up to Eve and deceives Eve into taking a bite of the apple. And she convinces Adam to do the same. And then once they do happen, they're kind of given consciousness. And they are exiled from the Garden of Eden to die miserably on Earth. Is kind of a brief recap of that story.
Yes.
So, yeah, basically that's kind of what's going on here. Adam's curiosity gets the better of him, and it kind of leads to his downfall.
Curiosity killed the cat.
So, yeah, Jonah fucks off because he realizes that this is not safe anymore. And Adam chooses to stay the night at the house where I'm assuming it's the angel Gabriel whispers to him at night. And it reads,
"You followed the shepherd. You are a fool. Follow my voice instead. You will find great happiness. Wake up, Adam. Do not make me wake the others."
Yeah, so he whispers that to Adam, and it's basically he's trying to corrupt Adam the same way that the snake corrupted Adam in the Bible, and most likely inflicting the present Adam with the metaphysical awareness disease, which, as established earlier, has a 97% fatality rate. So, he's kind of fucked.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And then later that night, he gets a visit from an alternate. And after that, there's text on the screen.
Patients report multiple sleepless nights after their symptoms become apparent. It is not difficult to avoid. However, the patient must try to actively seek it out.
So, yeah, basically he's been afflicted with MAD, and his writing is on the wall.
And that's interesting that it's that sort of text, because it kind of coincides with this story a little bit. If you're afflicted with the MAD disease, then you seek out the alternates, basically. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. I mean, Adam went out and sought after the alternates and definitely got what came to him. So
yeah, exactly. And at this point, Jonah has I'm assuming he's like waiting in the car trying to get Adam to leave, and the way that they're not communicating via the radio anymore, and Adam shuts off the cameras that are set up in the house. And so what they're doing is, I believe they're like renaming the photos on the camera roll to communicate.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. Or leaving like a comment, because you can sometimes do that in
like a caption.
Photo. Yeah, there you go, like photo apps. So a lot of them reads like, "Hey, I want to get out of here. Like, please, like, let's just go home and get some pizza and just pretend like this never happened." And then it's a lot of Jonah just trying to reach out, and finally Adam replies, stating,
I love this reply.
Yeah, it's just, "I got the door unlocked. I can hear the cat." And I'm like, that's spooky.
Yeah,
it's a great reply.
Super spooky, because then all you see is the basement.
Yeah, and it's just like, ah, fuck.
And I like that at the bottom of it. I mean, he's saying like, "Oh, I can finally hear the cat," right? And then he says, "Call me on the radio, and you can help me with this." So he's like, he's beckoning to Jonah to like come as well. So it's like,
ooh. And then there's another picture that's taken where there's spray painting on the wall that says "Nothing is worth the risk," which is a callback to Volume 1, where the police are no longer helping people because nothing is worth the risk. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, the radio conversation that happens between Jonah and Adam kind of highlights my main issue with this episode. To me, at least, where Jonah is doing a good job of like being scared, desperately trying to get his friend out of this like terrible situation. And, you know, he's really trying his hardest as a performer, but like he's just not getting anything from the actor who's playing Adam. I really do feel like Adam sounds super bored during this part, and I feel like Jonah is overacting in certain elements. Like I feel like they're both like really big fans of anime and like anime voice acting.
I mean, they are.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, they got anime in the alternate universe as well. Okay.
Yeah, you think there's an alternate universe where anime is good?
Oh.
And with that, we just lost all of the 22 remaining subscribers. But Jonah is desperately trying to get Adam to leave the house. He's talking about losing someone. Like, I know that you haven't been the same ever since we lost Redacted, but you're going to end up just like them. And I'm kind of genuinely curious as to who he means.
Yeah, they don't really mention it unless it's one of the older characters, like Mark or someone.
It could be, but like, I don't know. I've read theories online that it's Adam's sister, but I'm like, well, what evidence is there? Adam's sister Eve. Oh my god! If that was revealed, I would just stop watching the show. I think that's too over the unsubtle for me.
Yeah, at least Adam and Jonah was a little subtle, because I didn't really know at first. I kind of knew what they were doing with Adam, but I didn't know where Jonah was from.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to look that one up a little bit. And the Jonah, there's a story where a man is cowardly, and I think he like hides from God or something like that.
Yeah.
So that coincides with like him running away from the home.
He's hiding from Gabriel, who is the devil, but in this it's all kind of flipped. So instead of running from God, he's running from Satan, which it'd be like, oh, that's a good thing, but no, in a biblical sense, you're still getting punished.
yeah But I mean, overall pretty interesting, and I like the little ending where it shows the TV with a cat on it. So there was a cat. He was just lured by a picture of a cat is the thing, and then it switches over to the intruder. It's basically the end of that video.
Well, kind of, because the intruder does say something to him. when he's downstairs.
Mhm.
And he replies to him. So, but yeah, they have a brief conversation, and this is the words that they exchange.
What have you done? The right thing. Nobody is coming to help you. Do you understand?
And then that's repeated. Do you understand part? Like we mentioned earlier, I wasn't a particularly big fan of this episode, but I feel like the last like 2 to 3 minutes of this are pretty good. Of like, yeah, this is like the solid horror stuff that I signed up for.
Yeah.
Because it cuts to Jonah driving away, and the intruder is kind of like taunting him through the radio.
Oh, that's true. And then Jonah's crying and yelling and all that.
Yeah, and
Lovely.
it ends with Jonah leaving the car to throw up.
Yeah.
And then it kind of cuts from there. So their fates are left ambiguous. It's never really confirmed that Adam is dead, because I feel like it would have showed it. Like, just like with Mark in the first volume, it showed him dead. So that kind of left a definitive ending to his character. But for Adam, I'm like, well, did he die?
He was absorbed by, maybe he became an alternate or something.
Maybe, because like I mentioned earlier, to me, there has to be some kind of significance to them being wanted by the FBI, or for them to be lured into this house. Because like, maybe I'm just harping on this too much, but like, they have to have some kind of importance or significance to the alternates to be lured or broken up in this way. Because like, maybe they actually knew how to stop them. Maybe they had the answers to something. I don't know. But to me, their fates being left ambiguous is a very telling sign that they might play a bigger role in the future. But I could be just really grasping onto straws here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories to them, but I mean, it doesn't make yours wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, unfortunately, I would say that this is a weaker episode of the Mandela Catalogue.
By far the weakest.
Yeah, not a whole lot happens, and it kind of sucks. Like with episodes like Metaphysical Awareness or The Intruder Alert, when not a lot happens, at least it's like a 5 to 6 minute long video. But with this, it's like 19 minutes of just waiting for fucking something to happen.
Yeah, it just wasn't like super well done, in my opinion. Like, I'm okay with waiting a little bit, but the climax wasn't as strong as I was hoping it to be.
That's interesting, because I actually felt like the first 15 to 16 minutes of this where I was just like, oh my god, get the fuck on with it. But maybe it's just because I was so bored that like anything happening was really like, I was like, wow, that was good.
Oh, I see. I mean, I was okay.
It's like the equivalent of like staring at a black screen for 20 minutes and then someone comes in and shakes keys at you. You're gonna be like, wow.
Well, it's like I said, I like the concept of them going to this house, and they're like they're like alternate hunters. So I was okay with all that, but it was just like it fell flat for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was a neat concept, and it is sporadically interesting, but for the most part, it was kind of underwhelming. The same, however, cannot be said about Volume 333, which I feel is the best episode in this entire series, and one of the best pieces of analog horror I think I've ever seen.
That is really good.
Yes.
That one's like actually creepy. I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
like
don't watch that. Don't watch that in the dark by yourself.
I made the mistake of watching this late at night yesterday before we recorded, and boy did I regret it.
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't think analog horror can be that creepy, but if they have that sort of opinion, I think showing them this one would maybe change their mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Before we started recording, like maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, I watched a video, and I hope I'm getting the title right, but it was basically the Mandela Catalogue is disappointing, and here's why. And I watched this whole thing. It was like a 15-minute long video, and this person had only made up to Volume 2. Yeah, they were recapping everything and talking about, and I agreed with a lot of their criticisms, where a lot of the horror doesn't feel that scary because it's basically just warped Germa sus face for the most part, and that when you're exposed to memes like that, it's just not as scary. But there is moments of brilliance in all of these episodes. But I feel like Volume 333 kind of invalidates or answers all of the criticisms in that video. And that's why I feel like it's so fucking good. I'm sure if you were to ask Alex Kister today if he could remake his old episodes in the style of Volume 333, he would do it in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just like a perfect way to present it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's funny because even Alex Kister himself replied, he made a comment on that video, and he talked about how he's like, I actually agree with everything you're saying. Like, I don't feel like I was on my A game. I think he particularly disliked Overthrown. And he just basically just acknowledged like a lot of the criticisms about it, and he hates that he has such a good reputation among the analog horror community, because I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of people are really like angry when you criticize this show.
Really?
Which is weird to me because it's far from perfect.
I don't see any wrong to criticizing it, and I would call this like an art piece. I don't see anything wrong with it, especially like, you know, isn't Alex Kister like 16 or something? Like,
yeah, he's a young guy. He's like 18
like,
or 17.
Like, he's got oh, okay, well, I mean, either way, like, he's got, you know, plenty of room to grow. So it's like the kind of feedback that people are providing him, saying like, oh, this part was not very well done.
Yeah,
you know, this could have been better. You know, that will go a long way in his career if he chooses.
Oh,
to
definitely
continue with this. So
yeah, and you can already see it. Like, compare Overthrown to Volume 333. They're vastly different things, even though they're part of the same series. The way that they're presented visually is so much different. Like, Overthrown relied on a lot of like really corny text-to-speech type stuff, and some of the scares in that kind of remind me of like YouTube poops.
yeah,
in a way. But Volume 333 is almost entirely like original and presented in his style, and you can see the kind of growth as a creator in this, which is why I really like this one, and I think it's one of the best pieces of analog horror that you can consume right now. And if you were listening to this and you kind of tapped out near the end of like Volume 1 or something, I really recommend that you just kind of stick through the shitty parts just so you can get to Volume 333, because it's worth it to me.
honestly, 333 is very well done. Just like the voice acting is much better.
Yep.
The concepts are much better. The weirdness is like cranked up. Good all around.
Yeah, so I guess we can actually like delve into it now. So the episode kind of starts off with a phone call. It's an ex-wife calling her ex-husband, and she's just basically saying that their baby starts crying at the same exact time every night, which is kind of fucking freaky to think about, right? Like, just that idea alone of like something is wrong with your kid, but there is no rational explanation for it. And the father seems genuinely uninterested. Like, he could not care less about this problem.
You know what's funny about this? It actually coincides with Volume 1.
Yeah, that's true. The weird, awkward conversation that's had over the phone.
Well, not only that, but there's the whole notion of, hey, if your baby is crying, like, don't go to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like, just like ignore it. Yeah, because that's very true.
The exact same thing happens. She goes into the room and the baby's gone.
Well, she turns on the TV.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with the eyeball. Yeah, she turns on the TV, and we learn later that's not a very good idea. But I had a theory about the dad. Okay. And I'm like, okay, either this guy's a really shitty father or he's an alternate, and both are realistic. I'm leaning more towards this dude's an alternate. You know, they don't understand like the concept of like being a father or like being like a loving husband or anything like that. So that's probably why like their relationship went to shit, and why he doesn't really care, because not only like does he not seem interested in his kid, he seems to not even know how old his kid is, because he says that like, I swear to God, if this is like an imaginary friend or something. And the ex-wife seems genuinely confused by that. It's like, do you know how old our kid is?
Who you know?
I swear to God, Lynn, if this is just an imaginary friend or something, I'm gonna lose it.
What do you mean? Do you realize how young he is?
And I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder if this guy is like an alternate and he legitimately doesn't know.
He's waiting for her to go in the room, dude.
Oh,
turn on that TV, dude.
Yeah, but so it looks like it worked too. So she turns on the TV. She's watching regular programming, and then it cuts to like static, and then we cut to another phone call of a school teacher.
Any reason, no phone calls from parents, no doctor's excuse, and we don't have any apparent emergency contacts on file for him. If you could have someone pay a visit to 3 Avenue and make sure everything's all right, it would be much appreciated. Oh, and if someone could try to get the contact info for whoever answers the door, that would be much appreciated. Thank you, and have a nice night.
Calling in to check on Mark, who was the victim of Volume 1.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, we just haven't heard from this guy in a couple days. We haven't heard from anybody in his family in a couple days. Like, can you just go check on him? And then the address is censored. And I know I've said this several times this episode already, but I'm like, is this school teacher an alternate?
Everything is alternate now, you know?
Yeah, that's like the level of paranoia this show instills on you, where I'm like, wait a second.
Well, anytime anyone says, can you go over to this place, it's like,
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
So it's you can't trust anyone anymore in this universe.
Yeah. And because
that's definitely scary to think about.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely intentional by Alex Kister to just be like, can you trust any kind of phone call or any kind of question being asked? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But cut to the cops arriving at Mark's house and them finding his body.
They find his body
in front of the TV.
Yeah, in front of the TV, which is like, ooh. So yeah, Volume 333 also outright confirms that Caesar was an alternate, because there's that wanted poster that's hanging up on the fence, and I don't know if you paid attention to the other two flyers on the fence, but one of them was for a charity soccer match between Mandela County and I think it was, hold on, I could be super wrong on this, but I think it was the Bythorn County, which is where Adam and Jonah had their little business. Yeah, it's a charity soccer match. Yeah, it's a charity soccer match between the two, and all proceeds go to people who have lost their children. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat. A little bit of world building.
I'm looking at the flyers now, yeah.
And then the other flyer is a recruitment force for the Mandela police force.
They're trying to fight back against these alternates, man.
Or they're just fucking running out of people. Either people quitting or dying.
All of that, or perhaps the police are alternates too.
Yeah, that's true too.
Looking at the flyer, the police photo is like a bit distorted where their faces are, and you can say like, oh, you know, they just hiding their identities or whatever, but it's like in this kind of universe with this kind of story, I would very confidently say like this kind of warping means something
is intentional. Yeah,
it's intentional. So I think that even the police force has been overrun by these alternates.
Yeah, which that's kind of my whole theory about this, like especially with the informational tape that was made at the beginning of Volume 1. Like it all kind of leads to that, where I'm like, I'm sure that a lot of this stuff has been tampered by alternates, because by now it's been like 20-ish years since the alternates were first kind of like wreaking havoc, and it's like, yeah, why couldn't they just infiltrate local government? It'd be so easy for them. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole theory, that they definitely have been tampering. And there's kind of like further on into the episode, there is a segment with a character named Stanley.
Oh, hello. Now, you may be thinking, who is this voice speaking to me through my television set? Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Stanley.
The little face?
Yeah, he's like a disembodied like eyes and lips, and I find him kind of terrifying.
It's very, very scary, especially this type of stuff he's teaching you.
Yes, and that's the thing, where it's like the stuff that he's telling you is so unnerving, where he's talking about like describing your best friend. Is it someone that looks like you? To me, the scariest part was when he said, can you keep a bigger secret? Your friend is already in your house. I'm like, dude, fuck this guy. Like,
it's not just that. I love how they put it together. They say, okay, close your eyes.
Yes.
And, you know, really think hard about your friend.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then he says that line, so it's like, oh my god, you just summoned like an alternate into your house.
And that's the thing, I'm like, can Stanley create alternates? Like,
I don't know if it's Stanley making it or if it's like the people themselves making it, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of like the ambiguous part, right? Where it's
because I think I mentioned this to you on the first episode. I did say that there's a trick with the mirror, right?
Yeah, you did say that. Yep.
Yeah, so your brain fills in the gaps, and if you stare at a mirror long enough in the dark, you look like a monster. So I think the same thing applies here, because when you're closing your eyes and you're really trying to think about somebody, like maybe you won't get their details 100% correct, right? So maybe that in of itself in this universe spawns, you know?
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, because we did talk about that, where it's like the alternates exist as kind of like a representation of like trying to draw your best friend from memory. Yeah. And you're not going to get all the details right. And that's like fucking horrifying. The fact that like someone like Stanley can just be like, okay, so think really hard about your best friend. Now he's in your house. Whatever you thought of just now is in your house.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah,
love it.
I loved it too. I thought that was a great segment, and having him represented by like this disembodied like eyes and lips was freaky, and it reminded me a lot of like old 90s like informational tapes where it's like, hi, I'm Matthew the Math Wizard, and it's just like a nose and eyes talking to you. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Seeing that in the pitch black would be kind of terrifying. The one observation that I noticed, because after this there was a phone conversation, another one. It's a 911 call between someone who was very obviously distressed, calling Officer Thatcher, who was kind of the main character in this volume. And I just found it very funny. To me, Officer Thatcher sounds a lot like Bob from Bob's Burgers. So I just kept hearing that the whole time. Shout out to Chris, who I know is listening to this right now. With this clip, you'll definitely hear it. But
hello, Chris.
Yeah, but like the conversation that they have is definitely very like unnerving, because it starts off kind of routine for Officer Thatcher. He's just kind of like, okay, sir, like what's going on? Like, does this person look like someone you know? And when the distressed person says, no, I've never seen anyone look like this ever, you can tell that he immediately is like, oh fuck. Like, Officer Thatcher's like genuinely like scared by this.
Yeah.
911, what's the emergency? Please, you gotta help me. There's someone in my house. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what they got inside. I've had my doors and windows locked for months. All right, just calm down, okay? We'll get this figured out. Just need to stay quiet. Are you hiding? Yes. Does this person have a weapon? I don't know. I can't tell. Is this person threatening you or your family? No, he just stares in the corner. He's not taking anything. He's just standing there. I think my wife is hurt. I don't know what to do. It's gonna be fine. You just need to calm down. I don't want to look at his face again. Okay. All right. Does this man resemble anyone you know by chance? No. What? I have never seen anyone in my life that looks anything like him. It can't be right. That doesn't make any sense. What?
It's probably the intruder, you know, the intruder. Or Gabriel.
I was thinking more it was like class 3 alternate, because if you remember, they have features that are not possible in a human being. Oh
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I'm like, oh, this has to be like Officer Thatcher's, or maybe Mandela County's first time ever dealing with a type 3 alternate. So they go check it out. Another unnerving part is Thatcher calls another officer to see if they can get him there, and that officer's already there, but the other police officer that they were with just fucking left. He's like, nah, fuck this, I'm not down for this. And by the time Thatcher gets back to the person calling, whose name is Jude, he says, sir, where's your address? There is no response. So he's probably dead by now, which, by the way, Thatcher should be fired from his position, because most of the time when you're making a 911 call, that is the first question the dispatcher asks you, is where are you?
Yeah.
Just in case any kind of disconnection happens. So Thatcher wasn't following proper protocol.
I'm reporting him.
So that's grounds for like termination.
You can report him after we go over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a call to the Mandela County Police Department. Yeah, so they get to the house, and it's revealed to be the house from the beginning of the episode, where that woman was calling, and yeah, like you mentioned earlier, she was watching the TV, her baby was stolen, and she unfortunately herself, and kind of let the intruder in. And so they're exploring this house, and this to me is the scariest part of this episode. It's the creepiest part of this episode is when Officer Thatcher like sees something down the hallway and says like, oh my god, like, hey, like identify yourself, and the alternate mimics his voice perfectly.
Hello? Identify yourself. This is a police investigation. I need you to identify yourself.
Like down the hall, and I'm like, oh no, like fuck this, dude, because it's pitch black.
Yep.
All you see is like a little part of the wallpaper near the bottom of the screen, which beautifully sets up a jump scare, which I will not put in this episode. I will not jump scare you guys, but I'll leave it kind of muted just so you can see it. But yeah, so the alternate starts kind of perfectly mimicking Officer Thatcher's voice, and then you hear footsteps coming towards him. It kind of goes black, and then you see this creepy fucking hand reach out from the bottom of the screen and turn off the lights, and I'm like, fuck this.
It's so fucking bad. And then it starts floating towards him too, in like a crucifix shape.
Yeah,
that's creepy shit.
It is. It's so creepy. That's later on though, when he's in the police station, because Officer Thatcher runs after that happens, and he breaks out the window.
Ruth, if you're still in there, I'm gonna find help, okay? Just meet me at the station.
And seemingly leaves that other officer to die.
Right.
He's just like, whatever. So he's back at the police station, desperately calling for help, but obviously no one's replying. And that's when he sees, and we as the audience see like an alternate, full on in the, like, it's obscured by darkness and stuff, but that's like the first time we're exposed to it. It's fucking creepy, man. It's the way it moves. Yeah, like you mentioned, the pose that it's in, like a crucifix.
Yeah, it's a fucking crucifix floating towards you, dude.
Yeah, it's scary, dude. And we kind of witness firsthand an alternate copying someone, because like a face appears and then it gets all digital and weird and then it walks away. So I'm like, oh, he stole Officer Thatcher. Like he took him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the episode ends, is with that kind of realization. And to me, I was just like, this was perfect. This was great. What an amazing episode.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Really, really well done horror. And just, it was super tense too. Like it was thrilling and exciting in certain parts. And I just thought it was very, very well executed for the most part. I have very little complaints about this one.
Yeah, I don't really have any complaints either. I think everything was well done. I was creeped out like pretty much the whole episode instead of like just a section of the episode. So it's really damn good.
Yeah, it definitely amps up the horror and like the atmosphere, which was already pretty strong from the first episode, but I think that this brings it to a whole nother level, and I'm really excited for the next volume of this.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have kind of a closing epilogue. I don't know if you watched it. It was Every Day Gets Brighter. It's kind of like a closing, I guess, like monologue. So it's from the perspective of Officer Thatcher, and it's basically right after his encounter with the alternate. So it kind of leads me to, I'm like, wait, the alternate didn't kill him? Why did it leave him alive? Or it's the alternate talking.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. That was kind of my question about it. But basically, it's Officer Thatcher kind of talking about how he needs to put a stop to this, and how he needs to kill these alternates, and how surreal and otherworldly it felt seeing a copy of yourself walk away from you. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a fucking scary concept. Like,
yeah, dude.
A near perfect
Stole your
copy of
identity.
yourself walking. Yeah, like literally stealing you.
Yeah, they stole you.
Yeah.
The intruder took you away.
And that's basically just the entire episode. It's like 2 minutes long. It's just the entire video of just him dedicating himself to trying to kill the alternates. And there's a line in there that's like kind of resonant, where it's like, I feel alive, but part of me wishes I wasn't. And I'm like,
Yes.
Okay, this is interesting. Like, it's definitely setting something up for the future. But for now, unfortunately, this is where it ends.
Yeah, I do want to mention that, like the line that he said, no one's answering. So it's like Thatcher was trying to call other locations, but no one's answering them. So it's like they've been cut off.
Yeah, or they've been infiltrated and they're unequipped to deal with the situation, or they're giving up. Like, we don't really know, but it's creepy nonetheless.
He actually might be alive now that I think about this.
I personally believe he's still alive. I think that the alternate didn't kill him for a reason, much like the fates of Jonah and Adam. Who knows? Maybe the alternate didn't kill them. Maybe it did. But we know for certain that it didn't kill Officer Thatcher here. So I'm genuinely curious as to what's going to happen. If there even is a next volume, who knows?
It did take a long time for Volume 2 to come out, and then it took a really long time for Volume 3 to come out. So we probably won't see one for another couple of months, if any.
Yeah, and another thing too is we probably won't be making new episodes of this podcast every time a new volume comes out. We'll probably let them stack up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I'm going to keep up with and continue to watch as it comes out, because I was kind of tapping out after Volume 2. I was like, oh, maybe this just isn't for me. But Volume 3 really fucking amped it up. So kudos.
Good work, Alex sister. Good luck. Good work.
Yes, very good work.
To your other pieces of art.
Yeah, that's basically, I'm the same way. I look forward to it. But yeah, that's going to do it for the Mandela Catalog. As of right now, there's like 7 or 8 episodes. I recommend it, even though it does get kind of rough near the middle. I recommend it solely for Volume 333.
Yes.
But it's important to kind of know the backstory. You can't just watch this on its own and get the same effect, unfortunately. So,
no.
Yeah.
You have to go through the whole series and learn the lore behind the universe.
Exactly, yeah, and everything like that. But
Noah, before we cut this episode, did you do the mirror trick like I told you to?
I did, but I didn't take any pictures or anything. I was genuinely curious, and it was freaky. I gotta be honest. It was a little bit weird. You know,
did you like it?
It wasn't fun. It was like a good scare. It was like, ooh.
You get like a weird feeling, don't you, when you're doing it?
Yeah.
You think something's staring back.
It's like a weird, uncanny feeling, because you're right. It's not you staring back anymore. It's something else that your brain made.
Yeah. It's very weird.
But
I'll recommend that to anyone listening to this. Go to your bathroom, turn off the lights, maybe turn on like a candle or something right under you, and just stare at the mirror. And you will see something that you've never seen before.
Like I mentioned last episode, I want to try to end every episode with a weird little morbid fun fact for you, or a fact that makes you go,
Ew.
So last week was mummies. Old rich people used to eat mummies because they thought it would conserve their youth or whatever. But did you know, Paul, that the average person, so me and you, will walk past 36 murderers in their lifetime?
Will walk past 36 murderers?
So you're just walking by someone you share a smile with, could have been a fucking murderer.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and you will do that 36 times in your entire life.
That's statistically possible?
Statistically proven, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you will walk past 36 murderers in your life.
What the fuck?
Isn't that fucking weird?
It's super weird, dude.
Yeah. No, I don't like that.
that one.
You might be walking past the person that kills you. All right, well, that was this episode of Yet to Be Titled Horror Show. If you liked it, please let us know. Leave us suggestions for what to cover next. You know, we're open to creepy stories, analog horror stuff, whatever you want to do. Hit us up on Twitter. Go to Paul's Twitch chat. You know, become a fucking tier 3 sub. You know, do what you got to do. Spread the word. Let us get known out there. And thanks so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Have a good night.